Hello everyone and welcome back guys to a brand new video where today we're here back for round 2 of season 5 of our F1 2020 My Team Career Mode. Yes, we're back once more after the brilliant race last time out at the Australian Grand Prix. If you missed out that video, definitely go back and check it out. It was arguably one of the most chaotic races I think we've ever had on F1 2020. So yeah, certainly one that you guys do not want to miss out on. But yeah, heading though to Bahrain this weekend. Of course, there will be spoilers in just a second, so if you did miss out that video, there will be spoilers in 3, 2, 1 now. So, heading to the Bahrain Grand Prix, Max Verstappen, our teammate, currently leads the Drivers' Championship with Pierre Gasly in an all-time career high of 2nd place there. Myself in 3rd, ahead of Albon, Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon, Hamilton, Stroll, Kvyat, and Charles Leclerc were the point scorers in the first race weekend of the year there. And just Mercedes and the bottom 3 teams are the only ones not to have scored in the opening round in Australia. So yeah, a few surprises, it's safe to say. But heading into Bahrain though, let's just see what this car is capable of. So here we are then under the Sakir floodlights once more in the Bahrain Grand Prix circuit. It's always quite good fun to come back to this track. Obviously a very powerly orientated circuit, so it's going to be interesting to see how the Honda power units stack up this weekend. But Q1 was incredibly closer. I think the top 10 was separated by just under 8/10 of a second. So getting through into Q3 on this set of mediums is going to be quite difficult to do. But as always, we've got the set tyres. We may as well just use them to even set a banker lap early on in the session there. Williams Nicholas Latifi, for the first time in, I genuinely have no idea, it must have been since the George Russell days, I've actually been able to sneak that car into Q2 ahead of Kimi Räikkönen there. So yeah, very much does go to show that, you know, the bottom 3 teams now aren't that far away from the likes of Renault at the moment in this career mode. But yeah, this lap so far hasn't been particularly brilliant, but we'll see what we can do. We want to be aiming definitely in the 23s. Okay, Gasly there's just gone fastest on a 22.6, which would have been quicker than anyone was able to do in Q1 there, so he's looking ferocious once more around this Bahrain Grand Prix circuit. But at the final corner, getting incredibly fishtaily, giving a bit of a skid from the back end there. DRS activated, it's only a 24.2. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to go out again with that sort of time. Max Verstappen has just improved onto a 122.3, so our teammate currently 2 seconds faster than us as we head on to our soft tyre lap. Let's just see, obviously, main aim, of course, is just to get inside the top 10 ready for Q3 here. But yeah, a lot of cars looking ferociously quick, like I said, this weekend though. So hopefully we can find a lot of time on this second lap. Again, I've just got to remember how insanely late you can brake into the corners down through the first turn. Try to get the power nice and tidily on the exit. You don't quite have the same sort of rear stability I was hoping for. Might need to try and see if we can bring a couple of chassis upgrades to the car over the course of this season, as it's definitely still slippery. You can see how much we're struggling to try and get the back end planted in the traction zones there, but so far we have still found a lot of time over our first lap, following pretty much the same line that we did through there though on the first time round. But we're still, yeah, picking up a lot of time as we head down in through sector 2 there. A big lock up through turn 10, and again even more wheel spin on the exit of the corner there, so we really need to try and get that stamped out in Q3, even if we make it through into Q3 at this stage of the lap there. Hopefully we'll find a lot more time. There we go, the delta now up over a second, as we've just got a couple more corners to go of this lap. Can we keep it nice and tidy? Take a lot of curb through there, really slingshot yourself out down in towards one of the last straightaways of the lap there, but 1.2 up. Hopefully there's a couple more tenths to find. Breaking down in towards the final corner. That was a nice tidy run. There we go, 1.5 seconds up. That should be good enough to get us into Q3. Whereabouts does it leave us, though? P4. We can take that. So there we go, end of Q2 there. And it was actually Pierre Gasly in between the Mercedes and the 212 Motorsport cars there. Danny Kvyat as well, not far off the pace. So AlphaTauri, on paper, not looking like one of the best cars at the moment, but they are absolutely flying at the start of Season 5 here. But Verstappen fastest in Q2, they're on a 122.3. It's going to be very interesting to see if he can replicate that lap in the final qualifying session there. But yeah, both Ferraris sneaking through, as well as Perez and Carlos Sainz there. Albon down in 12th. Hamilton, 16th place on the grid there. He got out-qualified by Latifi in a Williams with Hamilton in a Red Bull. What on earth is going on? Heading out onto our first Q3 run then. What time are we going to be able to find from this car? We need to be looking at a mid-22 as a decent banker here around this Bahrain circuit. Everyone, yeah, like I keep saying, incredibly tightly bunched in the top end of the field there. And the Alpha Tauri's, I certainly wasn't expecting them to be a threat at the start of this season, but they seem to really be giving Mercedes and ourselves a run for money at the top of the field here. We know Mercedes are good over one lap pace. They dropped the sandbags last time out in Australia. Are they going to be able to do the same thing here at the Sakir circuit as well? And maybe we might see times getting close to a 121, as again, just trying to manage the wheel spin a little bit better at the start of this lap. Purple through Sector 1 is certainly going to help us out a whole lot as well. Get a tidier run through the hairpin. That's what I like to see as we get power up the hill in towards the tricky turn 9 and 10 complex. Nice and tidy, that's what I like to see. And no wheel spin on the exit as well. This lap so far has been a whole lot better than any other one we've done so far in qualifying here in Sakir. In towards the final few corners though of the lap, winding up the S's once more here. Gets close to without touching that inside curb. 8th gear as you head in towards Sector 3. That wasn't a particularly good line, but we are a long way up on Charles Leclerc there, who's on a 22.9 as we head down in towards the final corner of the lap though. Can we keep it tidy? Can we get it hooked up? One final turn, not quite over the apex like we were last time around, but again, very little wheel spin on the exit there. What is this time going to be? Only a 22.7 still, but we do go quicker than Max, but still a 10th and a half off Russell. I'm not sure we can find much more time than that. Well, I think with the opportunism luck that Valtteri Bottas doesn't improve, we need 4 thousandths of a second to put ourselves on the front row of the grid, ready for the Bahrain Grand Prix. That's how close it is between myself and Bottas here. We are going to get one last shot at this. We're going to watch everyone else as they come through to finish off their laps as well. But can we try and get pole position here for round 2 of the season? Slamming on the anchors just before the 100 board. That's not going to help us. In towards the first corner there. Way too deep on the brakes. Verstappen's gone quicker. And at the same time, we completely drop it. And the end of this session has unfortunately been a bit of a write-off for us. It was, I'm better to do it there than right at the end of the lap, but almost a similar move to what Verstappen did. I think it was in 2018, qualifying for the Bahrain Grand Prix, but not what we needed to finish off our session. As Gasly's gone quicker as well, we're not even going to be starting on the second row.
Qualifying finished, it's time to remind ourselves of our top 3. Verstappen, Russell and Pierre Gasly. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
Well, there we go then. Everyone else, in the end, they're able to improve on their qualifying times, but it is Max Verstappen who gets on pole position ready for the Bahrain Grand Prix there. George Russell just a couple of tenths behind him there, with Gasly out-qualifying Bottas by 6 thousandths of a second at the end of Q3 there. We find ourselves P5 alongside Daniel Kvyat ready for round 2 of the season there. Charles Leclerc in 7th, Sainz, Perez and Guan Yu Zhou rounding out the top 10 here, ready for the Bahrain Grand Prix.
We're here again then at a circuit famous for its stunning visuals and thrilling battles for glory. Who will take the spotlight in the Bahrain Grand Prix today? We go racing today around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit, with 15 corners and 2 good passing opportunities into turns 1 and 4. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left tyre into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. Now, Anthony Davidson, I wonder, might we be in for some early pit stops today from the midfield teams, all trying to put some pressure on or disrupting things for the leaders up front?
If you're in the middle of the pack, you got your own race to run, I don't think they're going to be thinking about causing trouble up front. However, closer to the head of the pack, don't be surprised to see some split strategies. If you're running second and third, for example, bringing one car in for an undercut while leaving the other one out there longer can put a lot of pressure on the leader and maybe force them into an error.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he starts from pole position. And starting next to them is George Russell. Looking at the rest of today's grid, We have Gasly, Bottas, Mr. Monaco, and Kvyat, Sainz, Perez, Joe, and Lando Norris, Albon, Stroll, Nicholas Latifi, and Ocon, Hamilton, Raikkonen, Charles Leclerc. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Antonio Giovinazzi, King, Matsushita, Magnussen, and Nick de Vries. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
After the points finish last race, let's aim to keep the momentum going.
So here we are then, ready on the grid for the Bahrain Grand Prix, round 2 of the season here. And often we've found in the past that the start to our seasons have not been the best. You know, generally it takes us a couple of races to get used to the new car and things like that. But so far, Max Verstappen, both Mercedes, and even more surprisingly, Pierre Gasly are looking absolutely on it in the early stages of this season. So we need a good race today. We need to try and move forward up the field as best as possible here. Now, looking at strategy, it's looking like the 2-stop is going to have to be the way to go here today. 8 laps on the softs, then onto mediums till lap 21, and then onto softs to the end of the Grand Prix here. Maybe if we get a safety car, we can try and change that just a little bit. But yeah, who really knows what is going to happen. We've got 6 cars that are looking like they could be in the battle for the race victory here if Danny Kvyat can have a little bit more race pace as well there. But will the AlphaTauri continue to surprise in a positive way? Are Mercedes actually going to get both cars to the end in one piece? Plenty of questions to be asked here in the Sakir Desert, but let's dive right into this. Round 2 of the season as we wait on those 5 red lights. 5 lights, and it is lights out, and away we go, trying to respond well as we head down towards turn 1. They're already a little bit of contact with Valtteri Bottas as Gasly's going to go defensive there. Russell, just like we saw in the real-life 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix, gets a blinder of a start up into the lead for Mercedes, and we go round the outside of both Bottas and Gasly into P3 off the start there, so a critical move down around the outside at the start of this Grand Prix there, as we're going to try and leave Gasly and Bottas battling out with Danny Kvyat just behind us there. But Russell and Verstappen certainly looking like the 2 quickest guys at the start of this season. Hopefully Russell's going to have a car reliable enough to see him to the checkered flag here today. Hopefully we're going to see Verstappen hound him as well. You know, I want to see a proper dogfight between these two as well in proper race-winning capable machinery as well. And I feel like, you know, in the past we have now supplied both of those guys with that. But luckily though for us, Gasly and Bottas still duking out further back. So already as we come towards the end of Sector 2, we've got a second to Max Verstappen in front of us and a second and a half to Gasly and Bottas behind. We need to try and focus on the guys in front as we just skim that inside curb. Get a little bit fishtaily as we head into Sector 3, but we have survived the start and we're looking good. You can already tell just by the way George Russell is driving at the front of the field. He does not want to give Verstappen a sniff at this race victory early on there. He knows the threat of having 2 of our cars behind him as well, with Bottas still battling it out with the AlphaTauris just a little way behind there. So George Russell is a man on a mission at the start of this Grand Prix. They're trying to pull out a gap whilst he can, and hopefully therefore has got a bit of time to work with later on. Well, I think if everyone is going to be locked to the 2-stop for this race, it could be one of the most time trial-esque 29 laps I think we might ever witness on F1 2020. George Russell not giving up just yet. He's still setting fastest lap in the early races here. Some incredible pace coming in early on there as Gasly and Bottas still just duking it out further back. It's going to be interesting to see how that AlphaTauri car does face over race trim, obviously. Pierre Gasly had a brilliant day out last time, but a lot of things did fall into place for him as well. They're qualifying. He's really in a league at the moment. You know, the likes of Verstappen and Russell seem to be the only ones that can match in the early stages here, but is the race pace of that AlphaTauri still capable of delivering the goods week in, week out? There we go then, the team just confirming we are still definitely pulling away from Pierre Gasly behind us, but I think looking at the mini-map, it's just myself and I think Antonio Giovinazzi in the Williams who are the only ones either not giving or getting DRS in this Grand Prix early on. We really have to sort of found ourselves in a little bit of an operating window at the moment. I mean, it's nice, no dirty air to have to worry about in a lot of places, but yeah, Max Verstappen and George Russell just really sort of towing each other as long as that's not going to help us. Our first major mistake of the Grand Prix. You can just see, you know, a few tenths fly away from us in that moment, and it's really difficult to try and get that back. heading down in towards the final corner of the lap, though. We are really struggling with understeer here, so if Max Verstappen doesn't pit, we're going to try and go for the undercut, and yes, Max Verstappen stays out, and we're going to try and pit in one lap early here in the Bahrain Grand Prix there. Gasly, it looks like behind us, has followed us in, but yeah, I was just worried that Max obviously was going to stay out and come in at the end of lap 8 here, so we had to make the call one lap early. Nice to see. It appears that quite a few other cars are doing the same, but we've just got to hope we come out in some clear air. A 2-second stop as well. That's what I like to see as we head back down the pit lane here. Where are we going to come out? It looks like we're going to be right with the Red Bull, Renault and Williams in this Grand Prix as we head back down in towards turn 1, almost into the back of our old teammate Hamilton. There is Latifi. Tries to make something work through the first couple of corners, and who would have thought that'd be a battle that we'd be getting involved with there? Hamilton versus myself versus the GOAT, Nicholas Latifi, in this Grand Prix. But yeah, Hamilton and Raikkonen, two drivers that are both really looking past it in the early stages of this season here as we head down the hill. We need to try and get around Hamilton, who clearly has not gelled well with his Red Bull car there. We turn in. He does try and turn in on me. Come on, stay in a straight line. That's clearly a sign that you don't want to get on the ERS too early with cold rubber there. I genuinely don't think I've had a save like that before on F1 2020, where we had to completely let go of the steering wheel. But yeah, luckily we are past Hamilton. Hopefully we're going to move past Raikkonen as well as we head in towards the final sector of this lap. It looks like both Russell and Verstappen are diving it in, so good to see that we did pit in when we did. But yeah, Raikkonen though, just in front of us. Can we get a good run? Yeah, Raikkonen really struggling on the traction as we head down in towards the final corner of the lap there. He's going to go defensive on us. We're going to be much, much later on the brakes though than the Renault man. We give him a big squeeze over the curbs, but we do get around the outside. And we also get the DRS as well there. As Verstappen even looks to have got the jump on George Russell through the pit stop window there. So that has worked out beautifully for my teammate who inherits the lead of this Bahrain Grand Prix there, as we are definitely a lot closer to the pair of them. Interestingly though, Russell on another set of soft compound tyres here, so the strategy is a bit mixed up between ourselves and Mercedes. We've put both cars on the mediums. George Russell though still on the softs. Diving down through Sector 2 though, it seems like the days of Esteban Ocon's win for Renault at the Season 2 British Grand Prix is certainly long behind him and long forgotten here. Renault are just looking like a team that has got no desire to compete at the front with their current driver lineup there, but luckily for us, it's really boxed up Verstappen and Russell just behind him here, so hopefully we can try and make a move work on the Englishman and our former teammate here as we head down through Sector 2. You can just see we're all slipstreaming off the Renault car, and yeah, Esteban Ocon, he might not be having a good day out himself, but he's really brought me back into contention. Heading down in towards the final corner though, all over the back of our former teammate George Russell here. As can we try and get the power down out of the final turn? Verstappen surely is going to be able to try and have a look for a move past Esteban Ocon, and you can see Russell and myself both gaining in absolutely rapidly on the pair of them there. Russell goes defensive on me. We might find ourselves getting a bit boxed in, as look at that, Russell goes for the double overtake on the pair of them there. We're going to be 3 wide out of the first corner. Verstappen gets squeezed on the apex as we get round our teammate as well there. So Verstappen has got past Esteban Ocon, but lost 2 places in the process. As look at that, George really early on the brakes as well there. We force him out wide. Verstappen now might be able to try and have a look back past the Mercedes man there, but not quite able to do so. And suddenly out of nowhere, we have found ourselves in what, the net lead of this Grand Prix? No, because the 3 cars in front of us are all still looking to one-stop this race as well by the looks of it. So yeah, certainly a lot more action is going to be going on here as we just lock up a little bit. But somehow, yeah, we've been given a lifeline by Esteban Ocon in this race, and we have really been able to capitalise on it. I think the key now between Verstappen and myself is to keep Russell with us whilst he's still on that second set of these soft compounded tyres here. We cannot afford to let him get away and get in front. But look at that, Verstappen starting to drop back ever so slightly on his medium. So clearly, yeah, not quite feeling the same sort of confidence on those tyres as myself, as we're slowly closing in on Stroll, Albon and Lando Norris. What a podium that might turn out to be in this Grand Prix if things all still come to blows between ourselves and the Mercs. Coming towards the end of lap 13 though, Stroll and Albon are surely coming towards the end of their tyre life, and we need to try and get both past the Racing Point and the Red Bull as soon as possible here. As down in towards the final corner Obviously, Bahrain, I'm sure, holds a special place now in Racing Point's heart. But Lando Norris and Stroll into the pit lane here. We've got the DRS on Alex Albon as well, so we should be able to get a big run on the Thai driver down in towards turn 1 there. Get a nice run around the outside. Make sure we get it slowed down somewhat near an apex, I've heard, through there. And we are now up into the net lead. Well, up into the actual lead, even, I should say, of the Bahrain Grand Prix. And look at that, the Red Bull just doesn't quite have the power down the straight to even try and go for any sort of challenge in towards turn 4. And now we've got to hope that Russell can't get past him through sector 2. Oh, we got yellow flags out. No, that looks to be Valtteri Bottas out of this Grand Prix there. So heartbreak for the Finn, as what on earth are Mercedes doing? No, he's rejoining the track. Valtteri Bottas must have just binned it by himself here. I was just about to say how Mercedes' reliability has really cost him there, but no, Valtteri Bottas must have clipped the inside curb up the hill there and dropped it by himself and has completely plummeted down the order in this race there. So heartbreak for the Finn, who might now maybe, just maybe, get himself back up into the points, but it has been an absolute write-off of a race once more. Can't imagine we're too far away from George Russell making his second and hopefully last pit stop of the Grand Prix here, but he's still looking tremendously quick on those soft tyres as we head out of the final corner. Is George? Yes, he is. He dives it in now into the pit lane, so we're going to have to really push over these next, what, 4 or 5 laps here in this Grand Prix, just to make sure he doesn't get the undercut on us. There's a fair chance he will, but we should be a whole lot quicker towards the end of this race. And like I said, the aim was to keep him at the very best between our 2 cars over the course of that second stint there. But now he's pit in. He looks like he's going to come out in a big chunk of clear air as well there for George Russell. He might just get stuck behind Lance Stroll in the Racing Point. No, Sergio Perez even in the other Racing Point. But if he can get back round him, he has got a lot of clean air behind us and the Alpha Tauri. Oh, we've definitely got yellow flags now, though, as I think it's one of the Renaults. I think it might be Ocon dropping to the wayside here in this Bahrain Grand Prix there. So not what the Renault driver needs in this race. And could that give us a safety car with just 10 laps to go here? Yes, it does. A full safety car, and that works out perfectly for Verstappen and myself, as we can pit under the safety car here. And that is just heartbreak for George Russell, who is going to miss out, or at least lose out a lot of the time in this pit stop window there. As the team is saying mediums, I want to say softs to the end of this Grand Prix. I don't think it'll be worth going on mediums to the end, but that works out beautifully for ourselves as well as the Alpha Tauri. Heading down in towards the final corner, we're trying to stay as close to the Delta as we possibly can here, just so Max Verstappen loses out as little time as possible through the pit stop window. There we go, nice and tidy into the pit lane there. Verstappen will just get a little bit closer there, as obviously Gasly and Capure, I'm sure basically everyone will be pitting between now and the end of this safety car there. But where is that going to leave George Russell? He might still get ahead of both of the Alpha Tauri here, as a 2.2 second stop. Verstappen obviously just going to have to wait a couple of seconds there. He should still be out in P2. But as we head back out of the pit lane, Perez has opted to stay out here in this Grand Prix. So Perez will come back out in P2 of this Grand Prix there, as Russell will actually stay out between myself and Verstappen, as he's obviously on mediums. I think as Verstappen's on mediums as well there. Lando Norris on the hards after the safety car restart. So surely this is a good omen for ourselves. So safety car coming in then at the end of this lap, as we're fully on the throttle and it won't let us go anywhere. Jeff, as always, giving us the nice speech about how the safety car restarts work, but 10 laps to go here from Sakira. It's going to be very, very difficult to try and get these soft compounded rubber to the end, but we need a good run out of the final corner, and we've got to hope that Perez is going to work in our favour as well. As we try to get the power down, we have remained fairly close to the safety car there. Why are we getting slowed down? We were far enough behind him that there was no worry about that. But yeah, there we go. It's green flag racing once again here in the Sakir Desert. And we've got to try and get these soft compound tyres a little longer than I'd like to the checkered flag. But hopefully we'll have the pace over the Mexican behind us to romp away off the restart there. Russell in third, Norris and Verstappen rounding out the top 5 there. So 5 different cars from 4 different teams, 4 different cars in the top 4 here off the restart. But can we try and romp away? Oh, we got more yellow flags. Perez has fallen to the wayside here off the restart. Is that the Mexican out? We've got another safety car as Perez out of the Bahrain Grand Prix. What's that going to do to the strategy there, as Perez has had a huge blow-up off the restart there in the engine? So, well, I mean, we're going to have to stay out. Guan Yu Zhou's out of the race as well. Everyone's engines are falling apart towards the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix there. And over the first 2 races of the season, we've had mechanical failures for Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, Renault, and Racing Point. What engine do none of those cars have? A Honda engine. Perhaps we have made the right decision. Getting ready to go green then once more. After the second safety car, we've really given it a big old gap as we head down in towards the final corner. We've got no protection behind us as we try to get the power down out of the final turn. It is once again going to be green flag racing here in Sakir, and this time round, can we actually go clean for more than a lap towards the end of this Bahrain Grand Prix? 6 to go here from the Sakir Desert, and once again, another chaotic race in Season 5 of this career mode here, but we've got no protection from George Russell behind us. If our tyres start to go off towards the end, he is in prime position still to try and take this race victory away from me. The first safety car seemed to have really screwed him. The second one really gave him a bit of a helping hand when all is said and done here, but we need to try and romp away, and I don't think George Russell is ever going to allow that to happen. New fastest lap of the Grand Prix. That bonus point would certainly come in handy as well here. 5 laps to go, and we're just trying to see if we can get George Russell up over the DRS window. It's that fine balance between trying to push enough to get the gap up, but not pushing too much as we set another fastest lap by 8 thousandths of a second there. Yeah, we don't want to take too much out of the tyres, but we also don't want to allow George Russell to stay close enough that then we feel vulnerable at the moment. Come on, we need to try and hold on to this. I want to try and get a win early on this season. Didn't happen last year, it took us a long old time until we could get that first race victory of the year, but hopefully we can try and win this Bahrain Grand Prix. Oh my god, out of nowhere, George Russell has got a mega run on us down in towards Sector 3 of the penultimate lap of this Bahrain Grand Prix. This is definitely not over just yet. I've got no idea where he suddenly found that. And up the inside, George Russell goes in towards the final sector of the penultimate lap here. Can we try and get a run back on him with just 1 lap to go here in Sakir? We might have to try and send it in towards the final corner there. George Russell doesn't go defensive. We do get the nose up the inside. As we head on towards the final lap though, side by side we go. Max Verstappen now is suddenly a part of this battle once more, so it is going to be a 3-way scrap for the race victory on the final lap then of this Bahrain Grand Prix there. And thankfully that DRS that we got has just given us that little extra speed that we need down in towards turn 1 there. These tyres are very much going off already off the restart there, and look at that run from George Russell. Straight up the inside he goes in towards turn 4 here. It's going to be pretty even on the brakes. We've seen Mercedes duel in the desert before, but George Russell can't quite make the move work up the inside there. Just doesn't have the confidence to try and really pin it over those curbs as we get all kinds of squirrely down the hill there. George again looking to the outside through Sector 2. Can we get a run up the hill off the hairpin? I think we're just ahead of the Mercedes man there, who tries to keep the nose up the inside, but we run over the curbs as completely centre steep in towards the corner then as we wallop the Armco trying to get the power down. Verstappen's going to fly past us as well, and that has been the almighty bottle from myself in the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix here. We've got to try and bring the car home in P3, but these tyres, especially those rears, you can see how much they're going off there. We've got no grip in the rear end at the moment as we head in towards the final corner. It was a problem that plagued itself all weekend, but I tried not to think about it too much there. And in towards the final corner, George Russell is going to pick up the race win for Mercedes there, and their first points on the board as we fishtail out of the final corner. Verstappen P2, and that was not what we needed in P3 again.
Yes, 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 we're on the podium. Good job this weekend, great drive, thank you.
That's it for another Grand Prix and a fantastic win for Mercedes. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, they played the safety car to absolute perfection. There are so many factors to worry about once the race is neutralised. I mean, do you pit for fresh rubber? Do you have the space behind you? How much fuel can you save? If you answer all of those questions correctly, you'll have a good chance. And that's exactly what happened today.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again. Let's see what effect this result has had on the drivers' standings. Max Verstappen should be pleased with his performance, making gains at the top of the table. After an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
Charles Leclerc showed exactly how to manage yourself out on the track today. He was almost flawless out there. Incredible stuff.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. The current leaders continue to extend their lead at the top. There was also a strong showing from the Mercedes team today as they make their way up the standings. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
Well, there we are then, guys, the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix, and one word to describe that: gutting. Just so gutting to lose it right at the end there. George Russell, we managed to just get a bit wedged over the curbs there. The rear tyres were really just screaming towards the end of the Grand Prix, and nothing we could do when the checkered flag finally dropped there. And a disappointing way to end what could have been our first race victory of the year, though. But the pace was good in the car nonetheless. We have to look at the strong points, and I'm sure we'll come back stronger next time out in Vietnam there. But George Russell wins the Bahrain Grand Prix, 0.7 of a second ahead of Max Verstappen, who gets his second podium in a row there. Our second third place in a row as well, though, with the fastest lap bonus point gives us like 16 points from that race there. Lando with a brilliant drive to P4 there. Albon with another brilliant drive to P5 there. Ahead of Kvyat and Gasly, who really were the only ones that got fully screwed by that safety car there. Stroll in 8th, Charles Leclerc in 9th from 17th on the grid there, and Carlos Sainz with a 5-second penalty. Not too sure how he managed that, finishing in 10th place there. Raikkonen, after a disappointing start to the weekend, both him and Hamilton were really nowhere and managed to find themselves back just outside the points in the end there, with Latifi 13th, Bottas down in 14th place, again with a 5-second penalty there, so I think he just missed out on points had he not got that pen there. Ahead of Magnussen, Matsushita, Jordan King, Giovinazzi, De Vries, and then of course Guan Yu Zhou, Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon all not making it to the checkered flag in that Grand Prix there. But that means championship-wise, though, we do move up into second place overall. They're now 12 points behind our teammate Max Verstappen there. George Russell leapfrogs his way up into third place there, just one ahead of the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly. Lando Norris and Albon tied for 5th place there with 22 points apiece, and Danny Kvyat up into 7th there ahead of Esteban Ocon, Stroll and Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz both with points on the board there ahead of Raikkonen, and then we've got the racing point of Sergio Perez. Bottas down in 15th place overall there. Latifi in 16th ahead of Magnussen. Guan Yu Zhou in 18th. Matsushita, King, De Vries and Giovinazzi rounding out the finishes there. And you can see, constructors-wise though, 40 clear of AlphaTauri after just 2 Grand Prix there, who are 6 ahead of Red Bull, further 2 ahead of, 3 even I should say, ahead of Mercedes there, and McLaren just 2 back as well there. Racing Point and Renault tied with 8 points apiece there, and Ferrari now worst of the scorers there ahead of the bottom 3, as Williams, yeah, very much looking like the 9th best team at the moment. They very much seem to be comfortably ahead of Haas and Alfa Romeo in both quali and race trim there. But thank you all so much for watching this video nonetheless. If you did enjoy, do make sure you leave a like and get yourself subscribed. We will be back hopefully on Monday, ready with round 3 of the season as well. Well, we'll be back ready for the Vietnamese Grand Prix. I can assure you guys, you do not want to miss it. A big thank you to our channel members for making these videos possible. You can be featured in these end clips as well as granted access to some other exclusive perks for just £1 a month by clicking the join button below.